Hi, this is Dee, and you're listening to my podcast, Let Me Clear My Throat. I actually did my last podcast talking about OCD, doing some self identification of myself. I talked about how I am currently, obviously, I've been through some traumatic drama and events in my life, various reasons. I've talked about it, some of them, in my other podcasts. If you haven't checked them out yet, please feel free to do so. Um, But I talked about how I'm actually seeing a doctor now to try a medical doctor, obviously to try to get myself situated in my mental state of mind, if you will. Um, I am just doing physical therapy and also seeing a psychiatrist to help with my mental stability and the trauma that I have been through. Um, in doing so, I have been diagnosed with severe OCD, which I talked about that in my last podcast. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. OCD is very misunderstood. They think that a lot of people think that it's just a matter of cleaning a lot, and it's really not. So please feel free to check that out. But I also too severe PTSD, and also too I was borderline bipolar before, but now with all the trauma stuff that has been going on in my life, it has kicked my bipolar in full force. I've got a lot of my information that I'm going to go over with off of Mayo Clinic. If you are not familiar with Mayo Clinic, they are very informative. I actually used to use Mayo Clinic a lot when I was in college as a resource. So feel free to check them out. There's a lot of different things on there. There's a search engine bar. Obviously, you can type things in. But obviously, it's not a diagnosis. Remember to see your doctor. I'm going to say that. It's not a, it shouldn't be your only go to. So if you're having things going on, please get professional opinion before you self diagnose yourself. But anyway, this episode here, I'm gonna go over in my some of my other podcasts. I've actually been just free miking it, but like I said in my last one, this one here is gonna have information that I have looked up and researched and printed out in front of me, and I'm gonna read it to you as it says on the paper. Um, and I also will veer off and actually free talk as well because this one here, you might actually be surprised in some of the ones that I talk about um, how probably you can relate to a lot of it. You might be surprised to discover um, that you're not that you're justified. You know that you are justified and that you're not a freak. You're not a freak. And it is very important to maintain your mental um, stability and state of mind as much as it is your medical and your physical and your spiritual. They all go together to make you you. But this one here is we're going to talk about bipolar, um, and I'm going to start off reading it. Um, it says the overview of it: bipolar disorder, formerly called manic depression. So it's been called manic depression, but now it's called bipolar disorder. It's a mental health condition that causes extreme mood swings that include emotional highs, mania and hypomania, and lows, depression. When you become depressed, you may feel sad and hopeless, or lose interest or pleasure in most activities. When your mood shifts to mania or hypomania, less extreme than mania. So hypomania is less severe than mania mood shifts. You may feel euphoric, full of energy, or unusually irritable. These mood swings can affect your sleep, your energy, your activity, your judgment, your behavior, and the ability to even think clearly. Episodes of mood swings may occur rarely or multiple times a year, so you might only get them on occasion, or they may come sporadically, off and on, or they might happen like constantly. Depends on what you're going through. While most people will experience some emotional symptoms between your episodes, some may not experience any. Although bipolar disorder is a lifelong condition, you can manage your mood swings and other symptoms by following a treatment plan. In most bipolar disorders, the treatment is treatment with medications and psychological counseling, like psychotherapy. So medications and a psychological, um, counseling and different types of form of therapy. Um, so symptoms. There are several types of bipolar and related disorders. They may include mania, hypomania, and depression. Symptoms can cause unpredictable changes in mood and behavior, resulting in significant distress and difficulty in life. Now, there are different types and forms. Bipolar 1 disorder. You've had at least one manic episode that may be preceded or followed by manic, or major depressive episodes. Excuse me. In some cases, mania may trigger a break from reality, psychosis. So you might, trigger a break, like go from reality and just kind of be in your own world. Um, Bipolar 2 disorder. You've had at least one major depressive episode and at least one hypomanic episode, but you've never had a manic episode. I have had times where I have been so overwhelmed and had severe panic attacks, severe anxiety attacks, even while driving, that have been so overwhelming that I have had to learn to calm myself down um, because it does get very severe. Um, it's a whole new level of uh, mental. It really is. Um, a thematic. I hope I'm saying that. Yeah, thematic disorder. You've had at least 2 years or 1 year in children and teenagers. Um, so you've had at least 2 years or 1 year if you're a child or a teenager of many periods of hypomania symptoms and periods of depressive symptoms, though less severe than major depression. So um, again, this children, teenagers, adults, there is no age frame of when this can kick in on you. A lot of people depends on different types of trauma and different types of way of coping with things in your life and just different types of depression and mental stability. Other types, these include, for example, bipolar and related disorders induced by certain drugs or alcohol or due to medical condition such as Cushing's disease, multiple sclerosis, or stroke. Bipolar 2 disorder is not a milder form of bipolar 1 disorder, but a separate diagnosis. So bipolar 2 um, is separate than bipolar 1, obviously. And it's not a milder form of bipolar 1. It's a totally separate type of bipolar. So it's not like a different level. On level 1, level 2, it's a totally different um, diagnosis. Um, so kind of like, I know it's probably like not the same thing, but kind of is like cholesterol. There's good cholesterol and there's bad cholesterol. While it still pertains to your cholesterol, they're two totally different things. So you got different, same kind of area, but different diagnosis. I know that's not the same as bipolar, but that's the only example I can think of at the moment. While the manic episodes of bipolar 1 disorder can be severe and dangerous, individuals with bipolar 2 disorder can be depressed for longer periods, which can cause significant impairment. So it might be also possible to have both of them, because depends on what phase you're at. Obviously, one can kick in, with the other one. So although bipolar disorder can occur at any age, typically it's diagnosed in the teenage years or early 20s. Symptoms can vary from person to person, and symptoms may vary over time. So sometimes it can be more severe, um, but there is no age group. And if you don't get help or acknowledgement of the the situation of this particular disorder, um, then you're not going to be diagnosed. So, I mean, here I am, 50 years old, almost 51, and I'm just getting to the point where people are saying, "Hey, this is what's going on with you." So all this time throughout my life, I'm thinking, "What is wrong with me? Are there other people like me, or is this just me?" But it's nice to know that um, there is actually something to identify my particular state of mind and being able to embrace that so I know how to interact with it and counteract it, so that way it doesn't get the death of me. I mean, really, it does get that severe. Mania and hypomania are two distinct types of episodes, but they have the same symptoms. Mania is more severe than hypomania and causes more noticeable problems at work, school, and social activities, as well as relationship difficulties. Mania also may trigger a break from reality, psychosis, and require hospitalization. Um, some people might feel like they're losing their mind, and um, they cannot slow down. They cannot control it. They act on impulse. They have a lot of triggers repeatedly, and just one goes after another. And it's a lot to overwhelm you. And some people get in that frame of mind that um, they just, they obviously cannot think clearly. And it becomes a severe thing. And sometimes it becomes so overwhelming and loud in your head that you just want it to stop. And you do extreme measures sometimes, even self medication, um, self mutilation, just different variety of things just to try to make it stop. Both a manic and hypomanic episode include three or more of the following symptoms: abnormally upbeat, jumpy, or wired, um, increased activity, energy, or agitation, exaggerated self of well-being and self-confidence. Confidence, excuse me. I'll read that again. Exaggerated sense of well-being and self-confidence. Decreased need for sleep. Unusual talkativeness. Okay, I'm just gonna put this there. Um, I talk a lot, so and it's not unusual, but I do talk a lot. Racing thoughts, distractibility, poor decision making. For example, going on buying sprees, taking sexual risks, or making foolish investments, um, self medicating, just a variety of decisions that are not normally your own, um, normal, your normal morals, if you will. Major depressive episode. A major depressive episode includes symptoms that are severe enough to cause noticeable difficulty in day to day activities, as such as work, school, and social activities or relationships. An episode includes five or more of these following symptoms: depressed mood, such as feeling sad, empty, hopeless, or fearful. In children and teenagers, it may be decreased mood. Their depressed mood can appear as irritability. Someone might be irritable, like just on edge on everything. Um, you might be feeling sad, feeling emptiness, hopelessness, tearful, feeling worthless, um, a marked loss of interest or feeling no pleasure in anything at all. So you just have no desire for anything. Just have no interest, no feeling, no nothing. You just don't want to do nothing. Um, Significant weight loss when not dieting, or maybe weight gain, or decreased or increase in your appetite. So you might find yourself finding comfort in food, or not eating anything at all, losing your appetite. In children, it may be failure to gain weight as expected, can be a sign of depression as well, which, it just really depends, obviously, on the age group of the children. I'm sure, because some children, like with your parents, they feed them differently. So it really just depends. Either insomnia or sleeping too much. Sometimes maybe you can't turn your head off and it just keeps you up. And maybe you are so tired and drained that you just can't keep your eyes open and you're just tired all the time. You're just wore out. Either restlessness or slowed behavior, fatigue or loss of energy, feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt, decreased ability to think or concentrate, or indecisiveness, thinking about planning or attempting suicide. These are all very important things to notice. And maybe there's other factors, obviously, that can cause these same things, but um, it is a part of um, this particular area of mental stability. And this, in combination with other things, can be very, very overwhelming and life threatening to someone if it is not intervened and taken care of appropriately and professionally. Um, some things may be um, controlled with obviously medications to help put a balance, but also talking to somebody in a therapy situation, but also realizing what your triggers are sometimes also helps, I have found. Um, Other features of bipolar disorder: signs and symptoms of bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 may include other features such as anxious distress, uh, psychosis. I'm probably going to pronounce this word wrong. I'm just going to go for it. Melancholy, Melancholy, and other things. The timing of symptoms may include diagnostic labels such as mixed or rapid cycling. In addition, bipolar symptoms may occur during pregnancy or change with the seasons. So sometimes, though, ladies and gentlemen, it's not because it's that time of the month. It's something different, really. I mean, I'm sure that doesn't help, but it's a whole different it's a whole different ball game. Symptoms in children and teens. Symptoms of bipolar disorder can be very difficult to identify in children and teenagers. It's often hard to tell whether there are normal ups and downs, the results of stress and trauma, or signs of mental health problems other than a bipolar disorder. Um, Children and teens may have distinct major depressive or manic or hypomanic episodes, but the pattern can vary from that, such as an adult with a bipolar disorder. And moods can rapidly shift during episodes. Some children may have periods of time without a mood symptoms between their episodes. The most prominent signs of bipolar disorder in a child or teenager may include severe mood swings that are different from their usual mood swings. So that's a key factor too. And that I think actually can go for anybody, but that's what this paper says. When to see a doctor. Despite the mood extremes, people with bipolar disorder often don't recognize how much their emotional instability disrupts their lives and the lives of their loved ones and don't get treatment they need. Sometimes they don't even understand it. They don't realize that's what's going on, and it does affect their loved ones and their own life, and they don't realize um, that they even need to get any help. And if you're like some people with bipolar disorder, you may enjoy the feelings of euphoria and cycles of being more productive. So you might be, like if you're more productive and you got this, I guess, emotional high, if you will. Those are nice things. It's kind of like you got a burst of energy, if you will. I mean, some people like that. You get productive, you get things done. However, the euphoria is always followed by an emotional crash that can lead you to depressed, worn out, and perhaps in financial, legal, or relationship trouble. So sometimes it just comes crashing down on you. And then you get solely, you're just overwhelmed, you're wore out, you're depressed. You might find that you're in legal trouble. You might have got yourself in trouble. You might have took some financial risk, overspent some things. You might be having trouble with your relationship. Um, a variety of factors. If you have any symptoms of depression or mania, see your doctor or your mental health professional. Bipolar disorder does not or doesn't get better on its own. Getting treatment from a mental health professional with experience in bipolar disorder can help you get your symptoms under control. So definitely seek professional attention. Get some medication if it's necessary, but they can also direct you in the way that you need to go in a professional manner, so you don't have to turn yourself in self-medicating or doing other illegal or I guess, less of a moral, if you will, of what you normally would be morally inclined to do. When you get emergency help, obviously, suicidal thoughts are very, very severe and realistic thing. It really is. I have talked about before where I've been very candid about myself, and I've put out to the world a lot of what I've been going through, and that's another reason why I've been doing these podcasts. If you haven't checked out my other episodes, please feel free to do so. Um, I have many episodes that I cry in, I break down in, because I just put it straight out there. I have no reason to sugarcoat who I am. I have been embracing it, trying to work through it, trying to also help other people to know that it is a real thing, and you have every right to um, feel the way you do, and your feelings be justified and matter. And I always say that people are more quick to be judgmental than understanding, and this is a very big thing. And when people don't understand things, it could be overwhelming just in itself of that. And when you have suicidal thoughts and trying to reach out to people that maybe not understand that level, um, it that in itself is a big trigger. And at least it has been in my past. But if you do have suicidal thoughts and behavior, it is common among people with bipolar disorder. If you have thoughts of hurting yourself, obviously seek help. And I know this is easier said than done. I talked about this before. It is very difficult when you're in that level of mentality um, to reach out to people, because sometimes you feel like people judge you, they won't understand, or you've tried to reach out before, and people have made you feel um, very like a piece of crap. Let's just put it bluntly, or make you feel like I don't know. It's really kind of hard to put into words, because so I know sometimes like I've tried to reach out to people before, and they have taken my confidence, I guess, if you will, with them, and turned it around into an episode. I've thrown it in my face, talked about it to other people, um, made fun of it, all variety of things. So finding somebody that you trust, that you can go to and be open with, is a very difficult thing to do, especially when you're in a different state of mind that is not normally your own um, normal mentality, if you will. So it's not always easy, and I totally do get that. Call 911 or your local emergency number. Go to an emergency room. Confide in a trusted relative or friend, maybe a minister. They do have a suicide hotline in the U.S. You can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or you can use the Lifeline chat. Services are free and confidential. They are professional, they are experienced, and they are dedicated to help people. If you have a loved one who is in danger of suicide or may have made a suicide attempt, please make sure that you stay with that person. You call 911 or your local emergency numbers immediately. Or if you think that you can do it safely, take the person to the nearest hospital emergency room, or you yourself can call 988 and have them direct you on what you can do. Um, don't feel like you need to take on um, the world basically on your own. And when you are a loved one or a friend and you notice things, um, or somebody has reached out to you, there's there's a lot of difficulty in trying to understand on how to respond, saying the right things, acting the right way. I would say obviously it's really difficult because you yourself understand and know your loved one, obviously better than I would because I don't even know who I'm talking to. But everybody's different. You know, I had a best friend who committed suicide, and I it's a very traumatic thing. Um, it was a very traumatic thing on my end because I was upset with her and angry with her because I knew she was being abused and stuff, and I'm not going to belittle the situation by any means. Um, but she was being a very, very badly abused, and I had a very odd feeling when I when I last saw her. I watched her actually as her SUV drove away until I couldn't see her brake lights anymore, and she ended up committing suicide that very next morning, about like 6 or 6:30 in the morning, and I was so angry with her. And I used to say, it's a cop out. You put all your pain and everything on somebody else, and this and that and the other. And I've come to realize though that in my own journey, and I think a lot of it is just my pain speaking. Um, but I have learned on my journey and where I have been, my suicidal thoughts and things that I have um, endured in my life, that I have come to realize that a lot of people, in my opinion, they don't want to die. They just want the feeling to stop. They just want the pain to stop. And most suicides, from my research, have been from people that have accidentally um, followed through with it. And some people have done it as ways to try to get not necessarily negative attention, but in hopes that somebody actually listen to them. But sadly, um, in attempts to do that, they have followed through, even unintentionally. Um, they follow through with the suicide, whether they meant to or not. Because sometimes um, accidents do happen, even if you don't intend them to, but yet you are sitting there in attempts to, if that makes sense. And I know this to be a big factor in some people's lives that I know. The exact cause of bipolar disorder is unknown, but several factors may be involved, such as biological differences. People with bipolar disorder appear to have physical changes in their brains. The significance of these changes is uncertain, but may eventually help pinpoint some causes. Genetics. Bipolar disorder is more common in people who have a first degree relative, such as a sibling or parent, with the condition. Researchers are trying to find genes that may be involved in causing bipolar. So, if you have a family member that has bipolar, it might be a genetic um, gene, um, and it can cause other people to have it. So, it can be a genetic factor, hereditary, if you will. Risk factors. Sorry, I mean to talk so loud. Risk factors. Factors that may increase the risk of developing bipolar disorder or act as a trigger for the first episode include having a first degree relative, such as a parent or a sibling, with a bipolar disorder, periods of high stress, such as a death of a loved one or a traumatic event, or drug and alcohol abuse. These can be big factors that can trigger your um, first episode, but it's not limited, obviously, because there's many factors, but these are three examples. Complications. If left untreated, bipolar disorder can result in serious problems that affect every area of your life. such as problems related to drug and alcohol abuse. Some people find the need to self medicate. And I say self medicate doesn't always um, pertain to drug and alcohol abuse. People can self medicate in other directions. They can overspend, they be kleptomaniacs, they can be bulimic, they can eat too much, be like a compulsive eater, or um, where they find comfort food. Um, they might have like a lot of sexual partners, just trying to find some type of intimacy or some type of level of comfort. There's a variety of different things. Um, Suicide or suicide attempts, legal or financial problems, damaged relationships, and poor work or school performance. Co occurring conditions. If you have bipolar disorder, you may also have another health condition that needs to be treated along with bipolar. Some conditions can worsen bipolar symptoms disorders and make treatment less successful. Now, when I was getting diagnosed with my stuff, a few years ago, I was diagnosed with severe OCD, um, severe manic depressive, and borderline bipolar. Over the years, that has changed. They didn't want to treat my bipolar because they were afraid that it was going to kick my OCD full force. So they didn't treat me for none of it. Well, now years later, my OCD is full force. My bipolar is now not borderline. It is full force. And I have PTSD severely. Um, so there is a combination of different disorders that all of them combined together is a whole different ballgame. Uh, because it depends on what episode is going on, what trigger is going on, where your mentality is, how you're coping, um, how your support system is with people around you. It's a very big factor. Some examples include anxiety disorder, eating disorders, ADHD, alcohol or drug problems, physical health problems such as heart disease, thyroid problems, headaches, or obesity. These are some examples of some conditions that worsen with your bipolar symptoms, or make treatment less successful. So, prevention. Um, there's no way to prevent bipolar. However, getting treatment at the earliest sign of mental health disorder can help prevent bipolar disorder or other mental health conditions to get worse. So, obviously, getting a early intervention treatment um, can obviously help lessen the condition and the consequences behind it. If you've been diagnosed with bipolar, some strategies can help prevent minor symptoms from becoming full blown episodes of mania or depression. So pay attention to warning signs, know your triggers, or learn them. Addressing symptoms early can prevent episodes from getting worse. You may have identified a pattern to your bipolar episodes and what triggers them. Call your doctor if you feel you're falling into an episode of depression or mania. Involve family members or friends in watching for warning signs. So, know what it is that kicks you in. Some people, it may be an ex, it may be a scenario of. It could be a variety of things. There's not really a set example. I've been learning my trigger points, and it's been very difficult because it really also depends on what mood I'm in, on whether or not something triggers me or not. Because sometimes it might trigger me at one time, but not another. So a lot really depends on your mental state of mind too, on what triggers. So trying to identify those um, is very important on helping you to understand, trying to cope with those moments, but also helping you to work through those episodes is very important. But sometimes a family member or a loved one will notice different points, I guess, if you will, on what triggers you and what gets you going. And when you get into a a full force episode, um, it's very hard sometimes to put your mental stability in check, to know how to work through it and to come out of it, because sometimes you will might not even recognize that you're doing it. And sometimes people can misconstrue and take things differently than what you're trying to represent, because you might not be realizing you're in an episode, and they might not recognize you're in an episode, or they might not even know that you even go into one. um, so it's and if you got two people or multiple people together that are in a variety of episodes, because they're all suffering different types of things, that's a whole level of a different stage also. Because if you have two, say you have a husband and wife, or two friends or something, and they're all suffering this, and they have different triggers and different times that they're at this level, and they're at different levels, it's going to sometimes it can cause a clash, but it can also cause a different level of pain that I want to say is not necessary, but is um, very difficult to work through. Because if you're both going through a manic depressional state or having a trigger that are different but at the same time or different levels, it's hard to work through those when you're going through your own. So trying to recognize your own as well as your loved ones at the same time, it can also then ricochet and trigger you more in different ways. And it's very overwhelming to work through. So trying to recognize your own triggers and your loved ones' triggers um, can also play havoc on your relationship. So working through things and noticing that you have these certain stages, and being in communication with one another, and trying to maybe have keywords or um, different um, I don't know, I guess ways of letting it known that you're having a moment if you recognize it, or if the other person recognizes it in a certain way. Agree ahead of time, I guess, when you're not in an episode, on how you guys can handle one if you are in one, and trying to have a game plan with each other. That might help, because I know that sometimes. Um, everybody goes through things, and everybody's in trauma, and people handle things differently. But I know, like in relationships, a lot of times you carry excess baggage over from your previous relationship, and a lot of triggers that you go through from your previous lives and stuff that you had before can be trigger points, and your new significant other might not know what those are, and you might not even know what they are. But trying to communicate and work through that is very vital in making any relationship work. But when you have situations like this, it's even more important. And I have always said, you know, you're going to have problems in relationships with anybody that you're in. Any relationship that you're in, you're going to have problems. Every couple's going to have a problem. It's finding the person that you want to go through um, facing those problems with is what makes the difference. Because everybody suffers something, but finding that person that you want to go through that with and overcome that with and work things out with is the key, um, to being able to find a solid relationship with somebody. Because you're going to have something, you're going to have some kind of problem with anybody. But it's finding that one person you want to go through the problems of your life with, and battle and overcome with, and work things with. And, you know, that's where the key's at. So, and then it goes on to say avoid drugs and alcohol. Using alcohol or recreational drugs can worsen your symptoms and make them more likely to come back. Obviously, being under the influence of that or anything can also, obviously put your mindset in a different direction, and be altered. And that obviously does not help. And if you're on medication, those can also counteract your medications and can cause them to be more severe, or intensified, or maybe overpower over top of your medication, and your medication is not going to work, or it might increase your medication. It could have a bad effect. Take your medication exactly as directed. You may be tempted to stop your treatment, but don't. Stopping your medication or reducing your dose on your own can cause withdrawal symptoms and effects and may worsen or return. So if you're on medication, don't self diagnose your medication. Um, and if you have questions about your medicine, obviously talk to your doctor. Um, go to them, and um, that's what they're for. This is their profession. This is what they do for a living. This is what they're trained on. And if you're not comfortable with your medication you're on, discuss that with your doctor for other options. Because I know, like, some certain facilities, they have certain medications that is their go-to, and so they are like automatically prescribing certain medications because this is their go-to treatment, if you will. Doesn't mean that that is what's going to work for you. So make sure that you talk to a doctor that you're comfortable with, but also make sure that you are able to understand what medications you're on and what effects and side effects that they have on you. Because some medications that you are on, some of their side effects are worse sometimes than what your symptoms are. And some of the side effects are even suicidal thoughts. So if you're already having suicidal thoughts and you're taking medication and the side effects is suicidal thoughts, make sure that you understand that level and talk to your doctor about that, because they might be able to offer you different ways to deal with the double dose, if you will, of having suicidal thoughts or intensified side effects that can affect you in a negative or more severe way than what you were before that. So that is very important as well. But adding things into the mix on top of that, because some medications counteract with other medications, even some over the counter medications, even so much as maybe vitamins and, herbals or whatever, um, they can counteract your medication differently. So be very open with your doctor on if you're taking over the counter stuff, and be open on any questions that you have that you don't understand. Because if you don't understand what you're inputting into your body, then you're not going to understand the effects that's going on. So if something is having a reaction with you and it is making you feel some type of way, you might think that it's something else when in fact it might be your medication that needs to be adjusted. And I know with my doctor, she has put me on a depressive medicine, and she has also put me on Lamictal for my PTSD and my bipolar. And she put me on depressive medicine because obviously this time of year is very difficult to me. My anniversary of my dad's death was on the 7th, and my grandson's anniversary is coming up on his death, and plus the holidays. And it's just a very, very difficult time of the year for me. Um, so my depression is really in full effect. Plus, my mother, obviously, I take care of her, and she is having a really hard time at this time of year as well, obviously, for, obvious reasons. But she started me on my Lamictal in a low dose first and increased it over a couple weeks period of time. And I have been seeing her, and she's adjusted my medicine, trying to start it gradually up. And I actually was having some seizures and stuff. I haven't talked about with anybody, and some of them were. I'd wake up and I was shaking real bad, and but I knew what was going on. I was coherent with it, because my son used to have seizures all the time, and I was just like, just relax and go with it. And other times, I think it was just where I was in full blown panic and anxiety attack or something, and my mental state of mind was just, I couldn't, I don't know. I just remember having very bad episodes. I don't remember them all. Um, and I was like self harming myself. I was beating myself in the head, smacking myself. I was very bad on some suicidal thoughts. I was looking different things up. At one point in time, I even looked up on how to inject rubbing alcohol. Um, but it was just different things. I didn't want to die. I just wanted the pain to stop. But it just gets to the point when you get at a mental level um, that you don't understand or that it overwhelms you. You don't know how to cope with it. You don't know how to respond to it. And, I was trying to keep my feelings off of my mother because obviously she's going through enough. So I was trying to deal with my own grieving process and traumatic events going on in my life away from her. And I was going out to my camper in the back and putting my feelings out there. And eventually it got to the point where my camper was nothing but tear soaked walls. And it was getting overwhelming to me. And um, people were just, they just couldn't deal with, they were dealing with their own things. I had nobody to go to. And I just got to the point where I felt like maybe the world would be better off and nobody would care about me anyway. Nobody would miss me. And just all kinds of different general thoughts in my head. And it got to be very, very dangerous. And fortunately, I've been trying to work through that and overcome that. And it has been a very big journey for me, to say the least. And I have been praying very hard for myself and trying to put a lot of it in God's hands. But I also have to realize too that God gave me my own hands for a reason. And I have been trying to reach out in my podcast, obviously trying to um, share myself with the world candidly in hopes that I can reach someone, if even to save one person, if even myself, then it is worth it. And I can honestly say that it does help me because I don't go anywhere, I don't do anything, and I don't talk to anybody really because I do take care of my mother 24/7, and I'm basically by myself. So I get lost in my thoughts a lot. I talk to myself a lot. I laugh at my own jokes a lot. I always joke and say my other personalities are having meetings in my head, and don't invite me. But I have accepted me, and I've been trying to teach myself that it's okay to look at myself in the mirror and be comfortable with my reflection. And before, would go in there and I'd look in the mirror and I'd yell at myself, I'd cuss myself out, I'd put myself down, I'd call myself names, um, I'd belittle myself, um, downgrade myself, and I would just get lost in all the negativity and pain that I have felt over the years and through everything that I've been going through. And I would just cry so much. And I am so damaged in so many directions that I got to the point of nobody's going to want me. I'm damaged. I am very damaged. I have a lot going on. Um, I am not very. I'm very independent. I've been on my own since I was 17. Um, so I'm very resourceful on being able to take care of myself. But I have been abandoned. I've been abused. I've been neglected. I've been belittled. I've been made fun of. Uh, Even all the way down to my education. I've got 3 degrees. I've busted my butt to get where I was and where I am. And I've had people make fun of me for my education, for my intelligence, for who I am, um, for my looks, for my, um, I don't know, things that I say, things I talk about, me in general. And I've carried this over my lifetime, and it adds up. And it got to a point where it was become my identity. And when it's said enough, you believe it to be a part of who you are. And you find yourself um, believing that that is um, all true. And I have been trying to teach myself for the negative things that I have felt to try to counteract it with positive. And I try to find reasons to reassure myself and put confidence back in myself so it overpowers the negative, if that makes any sense. And it's a job, it's a journey. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying I'm totally successful on it because believe me, I suffer traumatically. um, and it gets to the point where I have difficulty sleeping. I can't get my head to shut off. I can't get visions out of my head. I feel like my eyes are constantly dancing with things, and it's it is a very big journey. It very much is, and it has points that I get to where I have to do checkpoints with myself. And when I do checkpoints with myself or reality checks, I have to make sure that I'm doing it realistically and what is the best interest of my own mentality. And I have been trying to show myself and remind myself and teach myself that I need to do what I need to do because that's what I need to do. Not because somebody else wants me to or because somebody else needs me to. I need to be there because that's what I need to do and do it how I need to do it so I know it's real. I'm not trying to fabricate who I am or be something I'm not. I'm trying to identify who I am and accept who I am and accept who I'm not. If that makes any sense. It does to me in my head, and that's where I'm at now. So I have done a couple of podcasts. Actually, I mean, like in 20 some episodes now. I don't even know how many I got anymore. But feel free to look them up. There's a lot of um, there's a lot of different topics that I talk topics if I can talk topics that I um, talk about in different ways. But I'm very candid, very open, and very honest about myself and who I am. And I don't sugarcoat myself because then that would be lying to myself. And if I do that, then I might as well just not even get anywhere, because that is the whole point in my journey of trying to get better through my traumatic events and everything else that I'm dealing with in my life. And I've got a lot of years to work through. And it might take the rest of my life to do so. And I'm going to fall into different episodes. I know I will. I'm realistic about it. But it's remembering that when I get into those episodes, that I do my best that I can to intervene them and identify them as soon as possible and find different ways to cope. And people find different ways, but try to find positive ways and realistic ways that actually benefit you. Because if you don't, then it's not going to help you. And what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. So try to learn your trigger points, try to learn your coping mechanisms, but also to do research on different areas. Talk to your doctor, seek help as soon as you can before you're in an episode if possible. Um, but also to um, remind yourself that your feelings matter, that you are an important factor in this world. There are people that do love you. It might be times that you don't feel that way, but when you're not in an episode, you're more realistic to know that they do. And even if you don't love yourself, try to learn to at least start liking yourself and then work into the love part. Because you have to be able to look at yourself in that mirror and accept your reflection. but don't let it define you. And if you have to, I mean, this is what I do. I make faces at myself in the mirror. And I've talked about myself in my other I had surgery in my mouth. I had 26 teeth and four wisdom teeth pulled out, so I have dentures, and I'm trying to talk with them right now. And my mouth is really dry, and my bottom ones are kind of loose. So if I'm a little distorted in my talking, I'm sorry. But sometimes I humor myself because I'm strange that way. Um, but I take my teeth out and make faces at myself sometimes. Sometimes I do it with my teeth in too. But it's even funnier now that when I can take them out and don't have teeth, and it's even funnier because I look ridiculous. But I find humor in it and I accept it. I've got beautiful teeth. I'm very proud of them. And I have no problem telling people I have dentures. I have no problem talking about it. I have no problem popping my bottom dentures out when I have to eat because I'm still healing. I've been known to take my dentures and lay them down to eat. Um, but obviously respectfully. If I'm out somewhere, I'll put them in the napkin or something. I'm not gonna just because I know some people does gross out, but this is who I am, and I can't help it. I would rather have teeth in my mouth that are healthy than have a bunch of broken teeth where all the bacteria and germs and infection are going into my bloodstream and the rest of the parts of my body because you can um, get infections and stuff and die from broken teeth and infections in your mouth. um, it is a thing, it really is. And I actually had a tooth lodged in one of my nasal cavities, and it would hurt even to touch. But it's all taken care of now, and now I got beautiful white teeth, and I'm very proud of them. But I know some people that have dentures are self-conscious about it, and I can respect that. But at the same time, too, it's not a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing because everybody's different. Everybody has things that go on with them. And there is nothing wrong with you having dentures in your mouth if you have them. There's nothing wrong with being different, but also to know that you're not as different as what you think you are. Sometimes it is um, a mental reflection of what society has made you feel. But know that your smile is beautiful. And although I can't see your face, your smile is beautiful. And don't let anybody make you feel otherwise. I actually have my container that I put my teeth in. I put, because I do crafting, so I took my vinyl on top of the container and I put "You Make Me Smile" on top of my teeth container. So when I look down at that, it reminds me. Yeah, my daughter used to tell me I had resting bitch face. Well, since I have my teeth out and done, my jawline has changed shape. And so now when I take my teeth out, I say I have resting sad face. So when I put my teeth in, I feel like, I'm smiling. I paid a lot of, I say I did. I have HIP plus from the government. The government paid a lot for my teeth. And they have made me cry and be upset over the years. The least they can do is give me a smile. So, um, anyway, so this is pretty much me. I have another one I'm going to do on PTSD, but I might not do it tonight. It is getting kind of late here on my end. I'm gonna go check on my mother and see how she. I know she went to bed, but I'd still like to check on her. Um, but once again, as I always want to say, um, if you are having things, please reach out to somebody. 988 Suicide Prevention Intervention Line. Professional people that can help you and give you resources will not belittle you or judge you. Or reach out to somebody that you're comfortable with. Um, Also, too, um, your time is very important in your life. And I appreciate everybody that takes their time out of their life to dedicate to listening to me. Because I know that it's one point in your life, something that you have that is priceless. And if you give it to me to share with me in this podcast, I thank you very much. because you have taken time out of your life dedicated to um, sharing it with me, and I appreciate that. So, on that, I will close out. And feel free to listen to my other podcasts. If you have any comments or anything, please feel free to post those or any suggestions on anything. I have no problem with um, constructive but yet respectful criticism or interaction, or even a compliment is nice. I don't know how to take compliments, but they're always nice. Um, so, anyway, I hope everybody has a safe and blessed evening, and I very much appreciate each and every one of you. So, have a safe night, and thank you very much.